I'm here with the amazing Elina Pavlidis, and we just finished an incredible week of yoga, Jiva Mukti yoga, and you gave me really a completely new access to yoga, and I really hope that I'm going to be able to make it a daily practice from now on. So this is the first interview, so this is experimental, of a series of like inspiring people. So the first inspirational person is Elina, and I want this to be like super open. You can talk about whatever you want, but I think what would be really interesting is kind of your process of having been in management consulting and now teaching people life wisdom, yoga, however you want to call it. So kind of what happened and what are your like. Tell us a little bit more about that process and why you kind of went. Because maybe just like I think there's a lot of people that are stuck in what they're doing and they're unhappy, but they don't see a way out. So maybe you can inspire them.
I think for me, I was in a place where I knew there was some disalignment. I was really good at my job and I was getting a lot of positive feedback from the outer world. But there was a moment where I felt that I wasn't generating something that was very conducive to life or enhancing life on this planet, right? And so a lot of questions were coming up, but I kept on returning to what else would I do, you know? What could I possibly do? And one day, as I was going to yoga, they didn't let me in the class. I was late running, from meetings and blah, blah, blah. And so somehow I took the time to just write on a diary, what would I be doing in my life if I had zero constraints? If there was no, I need to do something in order to do this. What would I truly want to do? And so I just gave myself permission to kind of dream, to be into what would I want to do. So I started writing things I would want to learn, things I would want to experience with, things I would want to, play around with, and really without having an agenda, because I realized my whole life, and I'm realizing this now, everything was doing something in order to get somewhere, right? So it was getting the best grade in high school so I could get into a top school, then getting into McGill, getting into this, into that, in order to get somewhere. It was always, what can I do for my next step? And so I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I like just made that list.
Right? Rat race, you're just going on and on.
Yeah,
and
just
on
this race. But I didn't even realize it in the moment. It was just like that was the process I had to do in order to be the best me. That's what I thought. So just instead, I made this list of what would I do if I wasn't afraid, basically. What would I do if there was no thing I needed to do? And so I said I would give myself 1 year to experience everything I wanted to experience. And then after that, I would go back to going and doing an MBA and going back to the regular life. But what happened instead is as I started on this journey of, plan is no plan, yes to life, going fully into it for 1 year, things kind of changed, I didn't feel anymore that I needed the labeling anymore. I didn't feel like I needed to have that MBA marked down on my LinkedIn profile, I started really trusting in life, really trusting in my own inner guidance, relying on my inner authority and really flowing with life. And I think that's when life keeps on, getting better and better, and then the 1 year has extended into 3, and let's see what comes up next.
So I think I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been on a similar journey.
Yeah.
But to share with the viewers, what kind of took that being afraid away? What gave you that peace of just following your intuition, following your heart, following your passions, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think what was very helpful was feeling that I could step into this experience of freedom, but step out of it. I felt like if I go into this, I can also go back to the consulting job. It didn't feel like there was no way back. And I think that's very helpful to always know you can step into an experience. And if you don't like it, you can go back. But we tend to restrain ourselves and not go into things because we feel like once we're there, we're there. But that's not the case, you know. If I quit my job, I can always get another job or get it even to the same job. I mean, I had this experience with my consulting firm maybe 3 years before quitting, where I did quit, and then something happened. I ended up going back to the firm, and they were actually very happy that I went back. So we can always step back, and I think that's reassuring to feel.
Beautiful, thank you. And what are you doing today? Like not today, but nowadays.
Nowadays. What am I doing? I mean, I'm very much flowing with life. I think I've shifted my attention from what am I gonna do to setting intentions, things that I want to invite into my life every month. I mean, every new moon, and seeing what comes into my life. So I set intentions, and of course you have to act in also, you know, it's not just like sitting here and be like, oh, I really want to learn something new. You know, you also have to kind of, but also trusting that the universe will bring into your life whatever you've set your mind to achieve, I guess. And for me, it's been a lot about growth. That's one of the pillars that has been, every time on my intention list, there's something that feeds the heart, that really has no purpose, just something that makes me joyful. So when you're doing something that makes you joyful, I think that's when you're at your highest frequency, and that's when you can then do anything, right? I'm already uplifted by something strong in my life, and then I can do something very challenging because I have that supportive feeling joyful in one area of my life. So on my intention list, I always have something that feeds the heart, and usually there may be like 5 items in there, and it can be maybe connecting with the community or, you know, anything. Recently in Mexico, something that was feeding my heart was teaching to the street kids, and that was just super joyful. And it was just, you know, just doing it, and it was making me happy. And then the other pillar is growth. So the last 3 years have really been an exploration of new areas, new sometimes skill sets, and I really learn about a lot of things. I've been interested in the past few months with lucid dreaming, with channeling, meditation, kite surfing, Spanish. It's very random, you know. So, yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. And if you had, I don't want to call it one piece of advice, but one piece of insight or wisdom that you acquired in this process of transformation, or even now, that you would share, if you had a huge billboard in the world and you can just write something on it, what would it be, or what kind of message would you like to convey to humanity, to people, especially the ones suffering, that are still stuck in a place, you know, where they're not happy, whether that's relationships or life in general or their profession? What kind of, how would you encourage them to kind of do the first step into it?
I mean, I think for one, regarding the suffering element you just mentioned, I think we're all suffering, and that's really something to become okay with. And particularly in my transformation process, so if you want to call it that way, there's been a lot of suffering, but there's been so much joy. And I think becoming okay with the pain is something that's so important. Really understanding it's part of life and not being in denial of that, because our society really, I think, emphasizes that we should always be happy and seeing the positive things. Yes, but also understanding that there is suffering in life, and that's okay. Now, on my billboard, what would I put? I think I would encourage people to trust in themselves and trust that the universe always has your back. And I think the practice of yoga can truly help us connect with that sensation deeply. You know, as we breathe in and we breathe out, we just feel so supported by life. And we connect, we experience in our body that we are unconditionally nourished, we're unconditionally loved by the universe. We're just breathing in this life and breathing out, and it's always there, the inhale and the exhale, and the rest is just imagination, the mind running wild on what is, what isn't, what might happen, what might not happen. But in truth and reality, we're fully nourished. And I think once we begin connecting with that, we begin trusting, and true self-confidence arises, and we can actually connect with our true purpose and become more aligned.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow, it's over 10 minutes. Okay. So this was Elina Pavlidis. I will link her on Instagram. She has amazing yoga treats. One I just participated here in Sifnos and also in Tulum. And so if you're looking for making your first step into a new life, here she is. Thank you.
Thank you.